Ni hao. The test is over. I'm way less enthusiastic about this experience now. Oh, I have so many thoughts, so many things to think about. Okay, the first thing, my biggest gripe about the HSK2 test, it was probably similar in HSK1, but I was too nervous to notice, is that the reading, the listening goes as fast as the listening goes, and that's fine. That didn't feel rushed to me. If anything, the recording that they had for the listening was very slow speech. The practice materials I was using was much faster speech, and so I found that this exaggeratedly slow speech was a little distracting, but that didn't affect much. The reading was 25 questions in 22 minutes. I think that's a lesson in insanity. I don't think you're testing language at that point. I think you're testing somebody's test-taking skills. I have taught test-taking skills in languages, so I'm fine. But I don't feel that that one tested as much of my language ability as the listening did. Having said that, I did fine on all of it. I would be very surprised if I didn't pass, but I'm very frustrated because I feel like even though I learned my vocabulary slower for HSK 2, then I felt like I at least had a lot in the recognition camp. I could recognize things even if I couldn't remember what they were, both in sound and in written form. And there was a lot of vocabulary that I did not recognize, and that was very frustrating to me because where are you supposed to pull your vocabulary from? I have the official list. I made a list of 30 additional words that were in the chapters that I was using that were not in the official list. So that's already 10-15% over the original list. And I'm big on acquiring vocabulary through usage, especially through reading, but there's only so much you can do in a new language at this lower level. And so, where did this vocabulary come from? I really wish, I know it's not cost effective, but I really wish with the tests like this, where they'd have a new test each time, or different enough, where you could get the transcripts and your answers and check where you went wrong. Because there was so much vocabulary that I did not recognize. There was a lot of vocabulary with the B sound, and I only really know one or two words with the B sound in it at this point in HSK2. So I'm very, very frustrated by how much I couldn't even recognize. There were things I recognized and couldn't remember the meaning of, either temporarily or for the whole time during that exercise. That's fine. That's my fault. I need to work on pushing stuff from the recognition stage to the recall stage. But there was a lot of stuff that I didn't even recognize. And that really, really bugs me, because if you don't even have the vocabulary meaning, then how the hell are you going to do the rest with the sentence? How are you going to understand the rest of what's going on? You aren't, and I didn't. And I tried to make do with what I could, and thank goodness in the test they don't do as many tricks as putting, if you have 3 choices of things that the listening or the reading might be about. Well, let's just talk about the listening. You have 3 answers you can pick from in the practice materials, and they did this for HSK1. In the practice materials I was using, the standard course textbooks, they would use 2 of the answers in the conversation you were listening to, but you only needed to pick 1. So they would say something like if you had 5 kwai, 6 kwai, and 20 kwai, they would be talking about, well, it used to be 5 kwai, but now it's 7 kwai. I don't even know if I used the right numbers there, but you know what I mean? So they would do that, and then the test they didn't. And today also they didn't. I was listening for the exact words, listening for the meaning, but also listening for the words that were in front of me, and very rarely would they use more than, I don't even think they did it once, where they used more than one of the words. So when I couldn't understand what was happening in the sentence, when that happened occasionally, I would have to rely on the keywords again. I'm not cool with doing that, going up in the levels. For HSK1, that was fine, because I was getting used to so many things. But starting in HSK2, I really was hoping that wouldn't happen. But there you go. So mostly I have to rethink. My big takeaway is, do I stick with my goal of taking HSK3 in December? I may have to push it until next year, because there comes a point, okay, I'm using these as external motivators to get me to like break down materials and break down vocabulary lists and have like guideposts to how much to learn for how much. Sorry, somebody's yelling across the street. Anyway, so I'm using it as guideposts to help me with my time management of my self-study of the Chinese language. But if I end up going so fast that I don't understand what I'm learning, then that defeats the purpose. So I really have to, in the next couple of weeks, and I might not even make the decision until I get the results from this one, I may just end up taking HSK 2 again. I don't know. I have a lot to think about. Like I want to be studying HSK 3, but there's a lot more to learn from HSK 2, and I think I can still review HSK 1. But since my main goal is to get to HSK 3 and then go to authentic materials if I can, then why rush by December? Because I made my first yearly language learning goal, and I'll be breaking my first yearly language learning goal. Alright, I have a lot to think about on the plane, but first I have to get coffee. It's 10 a.m. and I just did 50 minutes of intense language processing, and I feel like my brain's gonna fall out. Okay, overall, my impression, I have a lot to think about planning-wise, and I'm pretty sure I passed, although I couldn't even give you a percentage. Okay, let's pretend. My goal was 70% this time because I knew I rushed through from HSK 1 to HSK 2, so I want to say about 70%. So we'll see in 1 month from now what that ends up being. Satyen.